what a raven actually looked like. Not at this time, but I want to, first of all, I want to talk about God, because when we look in the book of 1 Kings chapter 17, one of the characters that makes this text so possible is God. And he is still God, and he is God all by himself. And I've heard so many times this week that this virus is an invisible enemy. And I have to agree that it is an invisible enemy. But even though it is invisible, we as children of God should not fear the invisible, because just as there is an invisible enemy, there's an invisible God. Amen. The last time I checked, God is still in control, because none of us can see God, but we know that God is still real. The other person in the text is the prophet by the name of Elijah. Elijah finds himself in an unusual circumstance. Elijah finds himself in a moment of time that Elijah finds himself in the nation in the midst of a drought. And a drought means that nothing is happening. In Elijah's time, it tells us, Elliot, why the drought had taken place. The drought had taken place because of the sins of the people and the sins of the nation. That in this particular time, people had turned their backs on God and was doing whatever they wanted to do. And so many times that people say, and I heard people say, that this invisible enemy that we're dealing with is released by the devil. Amen. That's what a lot of people say. But even if it is a satanic act, I'm still crazy enough to believe that the devil had to check in with God first before he could do anything. And I believe that God has a reason and a purpose behind it all. And I wonder, in this moment of time in which we're living in, is God speaking to the church? And is God speaking to the people of God to tell us we need to humble ourselves, go back to praying and seeking God? So that's Elijah. Elijah finds himself in this moment of time. Elijah finds himself in this moment of time and in the midst of a drought. But if you read the whole text, God speaks to the prophet Elijah, tells Elijah go into hiding, and tells Elijah, I'm going to send, in the New King James Version, it names the bird. He said, I'm going to send a raven. I'm going to send the ravens to take care of you. I want you to go in hiding at a brook, and I want you to practice social distancing. Don't be hanging around everybody else, but I want you to go into hiding. But in hiding, Elijah, I'm going to send some ravens to take care of you. Now, a lot of us church folk, might well say amen, we would have had problems with God if God said, I'm going to send a raven to take care of you. A lot of us would have had a problem with that, because some of us would have wanted the red bird, the robin, and all that kind of stuff. We want a beautiful bird to come to us. But God said, I'm going to send a raven. And sometimes we got to be careful. God's blessing may not come in a beautiful package, but God's blessing may come in something that looks unusable. But let me tell you, when God commands the unusual, God can bring a blessing in your life. I want you to look at the picture of a raven. I thought about this morning about 3:30. I said, I wanted somebody to put a picture. That's what a raven looks like. And look what the raven is doing. He's eating right now. Now, most of us church folks, saved and sanctified, will tell God, you're going to send that nasty bird to take care of me. And most of us would have said, that's not for me. Most of us would have said, I'm too high class for this ugly bird to come and take to me. I wish I hear somebody say amen. Most of us said, God, you don't understand. I go to Orange Grove Missionary Baptist Church. I got a title. I sing in the choir. And this the best you got? This ugly raven? Put it back up there, Thomas. Amen. This ugly raven, this is the best you got in order to bless me. But in the midst of what we're going through, you got to be careful how God sends his blessing into your life. You may be looking for God to operate one way, but God may operate another way. He may send a raven to your house in order to bless you. I need somebody.